This summer, we had the opportunity with other priest friends to go on vacation and a few days off to beautiful Central Oregon, all the different places there. And one of the hikes that we enjoyed very much is one that is called the Green Lakes in the South Sister Wilderness. Beautiful place. And so you hike 5 miles in right next to a river. And then at the end of it, you get to these Green Lakes, beautiful, deep green, between two mountains, South Sister and Broken Top, and just the whole place is an amazing atmosphere, the skies and the birds and just the whole nature invades you in that moment. And we were all caught in a sense of the reality of that place, the authenticity of nature, and how real things feel when you are in nature and you are able to enter in contact with this amazing nature around us. Especially in contrast with an age of so much information and content where we need to discern all the time what is false, what is true. You get yourself out in nature and you are invaded by this sense of reality, of authenticity, things that are true, are not false. Nature itself, I think it's almost like a silent cry for authenticity. The good news is that today the same author of the book of nature is the one who invites us in the book of life to that same authenticity of life in our hearts, in our lives all around, to truly live real lives. That's what Jesus wants for each one of us. Authenticity in our actions, of our words, our thoughts, our relationships, our prayer, everything that we do and are. Jesus is the Lord who knows us beyond our first impressions. Know how much attention we pay to the first impression that you want to cause a good impression to our people. Jesus is the Lord who knows us in the constancy of our lives. He has always seen us from the womb of our mothers. And so He knows us perfectly well beyond that good first impression that we want to portray. He knows us in a real way. And so He invites us to live in an authentic way. Because in the end, and we have experience of this in life, how the only things that truly remain are the ones that we love. And then the ones that we do with real and true love, all the others fall with time. Sooner or later, give them time, they will fall. But what we truly do with our hearts, what we truly love, that's what remains. That's what's authentic. Let's take one more step. The word authenticity comes from the Latin root word that we use for author. So authenticity is when we are the owners of our actions, our relationships, our words, our thoughts, prayers, and everything else. When we can take ownership over those things. And this is important because it speaks to the results that it has in our lives. When you are authentic all around, you experience peace in the heart. We experience an inner peace that we are able to relate with others in a peaceful way. Even though there may be many things that we still need to take care of in our lives and need to improve, but we have an inner peace that we are being authentic, that we are living a real life. We are the author, the owners of all that we do. When you plagiarize in life, those are the moments when we are filled with restlessness, we are preoccupied, and we live with a great sense of inadequacy in our lives. So the fruit of authenticity is inner peace. If you live authentically, you will experience an authentic peace in your life. The first two readings today, the first one from Deuteronomy and the second one from the letter of James, they both speak to the external practices, so important. We could summarize them in two phrases. The first reading saying, observe them, the commandments, carefully. And the second letter of James, be doers of the word and not only hearers. They both stress the importance of external practices and the things that we need to do. We need to follow those external commandments and laws that guide us in such an important way. But Jesus, in the gospel, he stresses the importance of what is inside of our hearts. He says, it is from within that comes everything in our lives. The bad things, and he presents a list of all the things that begin in our ill hearts and wills. But also we could say that we could make a list of good things that also begin in our hearts. Because virtue also starts with a godly inspiration in our hearts. So it is the inner side and that correspondence in between the inside and the outside that is so important, that Jesus wants to touch on today. That's what authenticity means, when there's a match from the inside and the outside. In fact, Jesus, the thing that he's harsher about is hypocrisy. If you follow the Gospels, the one thing that he does not negotiate with is the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. He calls them many times hypocrites. That's what I call plagiarism today, but in a more modern word. But that's what it is, dividing the external and the internal. Jesus even dined with, those who were sinners and who were struggling, but he did not allow hypocrisy. And so he wants us to work on our inner self so that today we can start living and continue living an authentic life. So with this understanding, today's homily could be seen as the second part of last Sunday's homily. Let us focus again on ourselves and our own hearts and renew our desire for holiness. Let us look at the healthy parts of the body and make sure that they are being nourished so that we can make the whole organism sound and good again. Let us focus on what is good so that we can, again, make the whole body sound. What Jesus calls conversion of the heart is what secures our authenticity in life. And that's what I would like to touch on today. There's no better medicine against plagiarism and performing in life than that continuous conversion of heart. Continuous conversion of heart, of the inner world. And don't get me wrong, external practices and all the external things that we need to do, the commandments and all those things, are still there and very important to practice. But we want to focus today in that inner match, in our own hearts, from where everything flows. This conversion of heart has three main characteristics, three main aspects according to all spiritual masters. And these three characteristics make this continual conversion very hard, but at the same time very exciting, I think. In the first place, it is never ending. It has a beginning. They say at age 7, the age of reason, when we start making conscious decisions. It is in that moment that we begin, but it has no end. Until our last breath, we are bound to this unending conversion, never-ending conversion. It is limitless. So it makes it hard because many times we can get tired, but it also makes it very exciting. Because when many other things have a cap, there's no cap for our conversion. We can always grow more and continually convert. There's always room for continuous progress in our lives. And that is very exciting. St. Paul, he realized towards the end of his life, and he reported that in 1 Corinthians 9, that towards the end of his life he realized that he needed to discipline himself as an athlete to make sure that after preaching the gospel, he might not be deceived himself and lost himself. So towards the end of his life, St. Paul he realized that he had a need for that continuous conversion. Second aspect is that this conversion is all-encompassing. You change your heart, you change everything. And also that when you change one aspect of your heart, you start to change all around. Because when the tide goes up, all the boats go up. And so when we start changing one aspect of our lives, we start improving in all of them. And that's very exciting as well, and makes it very hard as well. And finally, it is always new. There's always new aspects that we discover. We are never done when we think that we are done. Because Jesus Christ is Lord, He is God, and that's the foundation for that. We need to be configured with Christ, who is God, and so there's limitless opportunities, always new aspects to grow in. So this is the invitation for today, to renew our desire for that continuous conversion in our lives, focusing in our hearts, me in the first place, but for all of us, so that we may live authentic lives, and in that way find an authentic peace in our lives. The question that still remains is how? How do we do it? How do we do this? And let me share with you 2 words that I think can help us. These are the 2 steps that we need to take in order to achieve this continuous conversion. The first one, recognize. The second one, reorganize. Both with an R, so that we can remember in this week. So step 1 is recognize. This is the step of light, bringing things under the light of Christ, being able to remove things from shadows and darkness and make them clear before our eyes and before the eyes of God. The inner world, I recognize that, can be confusing many times. And so a great part of our conversion is simply attained just by labeling, just by naming things, being able to pinpoint them. When you are able to do that, you start winning already, because we are able to see them more clearly. This is not such an easy task as it sounds. We all know this. So there's a few things that can help us to make things more clear, to bring light to things. The first one is pay attention to things that bring an inner noise. There's some things that maybe they're not so clear yet, but they make an inner noise. I shouldn't be doing this, or I have a sense that that wasn't the right word to say, or I have a sense that, that wasn't the right attitude, or I have a sense that I should be doing this other thing. And there's some things that cause an inner noise. When you're striving for holiness, when you want to improve in the spiritual path, there is that inner noise that comes from the voice of conscience, and so you can follow that. In the second place, pay attention to things that bring sadness to us. When there's an unexplained sadness, I don't know why I feel sad about this. And that's a path that we can trace down and may lead us to something there that needs conversion. And thirdly, what other people say. Explicitly many times, but many times implicitly. And that helps us so much, being able to read what our people want to tell us. And that leads us to areas that we can bring more to the light and convert. And the second step is to reorganize. We know that life changes only when a habit changes in our lives. So what small thing are you going to do differently? What small factor is going to change so that everything could change? This man shared with me that he was experiencing in his life that he had no moment of true silence and peace, because he woke up and the whole family was up, and from that moment on it was go, go, go all day, and no time to really rest and pray quietly. And so he discovered that if he woke up 10 minutes earlier, there would be silence in the house. And just that small change changed his life, his whole life, truly. Because he found those 10 minutes of silence, and he started his day in a recollected way. And that changed the way that he did everything else. So it doesn't need to be a huge change in our lives, but something that we reorganize that may change the whole picture. Because a small change in the beginning is a big change in the end. Something needs to be done differently in order to be able to reorganize and change. So what can we take away from this Sunday? My invitation is that we can commit again to this continuous conversion of the heart so that we may live a more authentic life and in that way experience an inner peace. The souls that examine themselves daily, those are the souls that grow, and those are the ones who really stay accountable to themselves and to God and live authentic lives. So I invite you to experience for 7 days the benefits of examining our conscience. 3 minutes of examination of conscience for 7 days to recognize and to reorganize. So to bring things to light and then to decide a small resolution for next day. It is better if we do this at night. So 3 minutes for 7 days that will help us bring light into our lives so that we may strive more for this continuous conversion. We all desire authentic peace, but for that we need to live an authentic life. So let us pray today and ask for that grace, that we may live an authentic life, one that is rooted in Christ.